Today, I want to talk about a few things. We're going to go deeper into the Schumann Resonance. I want to talk about borders and how they actually didn't exist up until recently, and a few other topics of interest. But before we dive into that, and by the way, the borders have to do with the reset and, just how everything was just switched and changed in our history. But before we go into that, I had recorded this 44-minute long video yesterday, and YouTube censored it on a different account. So I upload my videos. Before I upload them here, I upload them on other channels, just because for people who've been following me for the past 5 years, and I've been doing that since 2022, which if you know why. And so it was taken down. I have to re-record this video right now. I'm trying to put in most of the information that I put into this video, just going to make it shorter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload this 44-minute long video on my Odyssey, Rumble, and BitChute over the next few days. So you can just look me up there. It's the same name, Shamanic Self. And that's going to have basically the info that was also censored. It had to do with DNA and autism, for people who want to go deeper into that. But I'm going to try to rehash most of the information that wasn't censored in this particular video, just so you have it on YouTube as well. So that's annoying, obviously. And yeah, anyhow, let's just move on. So one thing that I do want to announce is the DNA healing course is now live. And I have been working on this one for the past 5 years. So I've been actively healing DNA, not just my own, but also of clients, of people over these past 5+ years. And you will find this information nowhere else. So I'm the only person who actually knows this information, who's really who really dove into this the way that I have, put effort into this and had to research this and just find all of this through my own intuitive insight, through sessions that I had, through just psychic intuition, through every single thing. So you will literally not find this anywhere else. You can use this for your own self. You can also use this to work on others, by the way, but this is the most powerful course out there, in addition to the Be Your Own Shaman course, in my opinion, at least. And you can heal your DNA from everything: EMF damage, heavy metals, nano AI, radiation, environmental causes, every single thing out there. I teach that in several different lessons and exercises. I also show you why our DNA has been targeted and attacked for so long already. It's been targeted for so many lifetimes that we've had, not just this lifetime, but also previous lifetimes, and why our DNA is so powerful that they're always trying to get to it. And by they, I mean the AI entities, the matrix controllers, all these beings on the other side that we can't necessarily see. And you will also learn how to restore your divine soul blueprint. And this is really the next level, in my opinion. It's the holy grail of spirituality. It's just going to put your life in so much alignment, and you're going to start living your life in that absolute alignment once you found that. So very important. What's important to note is your divine soul blueprint is hidden before entering this lifetime. So you need to actually go in there, restore it, reconnect with it, connect with aspects of it. And that is really going to change your life. I know it's changed my life, and I talk more about that too in the video that I'm going to upload on Odyssey if you're more interested in that. But in short, this is what I wanted to announce, because I do know a lot of people are going to be needing this, and they have been needing this since 2020 on for sure. But even before that, there's just a lot of damage that's happening, and they're targeting our DNA with it. And especially restoring your soul blueprint is just the next level of all of it. So I want to go into the borders and how they've changed. But I think before we do that, we are going to just go through a comment that I received in regards to Jonah Jenton. And I actually have to plug in that computer. They are throwing a lot at us in general. I also feel there's this time portal that kind of opened up, because right now we're in July when I'm recording this, And so we had the Independence Day on 4th of July. And right after that happened, on July 5th, I felt they were really just speeding time up, like really accelerating time. So I feel there's this time portal that they're opening up, or that they have been opening up for people who maybe have been feeling that too. And I personally have also been feeling a lot of headaches. So I know they're trying to target and attack. You know, the more powerful you become and the more you just become at peace with yourself and your own life and your own world, the more they really try to target you, right? Like, this is just such a beautiful confirmation that, you know, everyone that feels that way right now, you're doing the right thing. Okay, so the comments, let me go through this comments. And this is just something that people in general, it was a particular person who left this comment, but there were a few people who came out of nowhere, had never commented on this channel before. And I liken it to the analogy of poking your finger into the beehive and the swarm of bees coming out. You know, you only hear from them when you criticize one of their cult leaders, and you don't hear from them ever again. I don't even know if these people are following my channel or if they just got triggered by the thumbnail. But I was basically saying how Jonah Jenton belongs to the One-Eyed Club. It's quite obvious when you look at the thumbnail. And one of these people commented, if you watch that video by Jonna Jinton on living with the Nordic vampires, she's referring to the swarms of mosquitoes that bite them alive every Swedish summer. Yes, doesn't that sound so cute and innocent? All she's really talking about is the mosquitoes. There's no double meaning behind her messages. Who are you kidding? I mean, so I'm going to read my reply as well. And then this person goes on, she's done other videos mentioning this problem. Yeah, I mean, you have mosquitoes everywhere. It's true. And I do remember seeing some of her videos where she did mention the mosquito issue, but that is not the reason she depicts her thumbnail as the One-Eyed Club. Okay. The picture of her with the hand over the eye, you'll notice the hand barely even covers the eye. Actually, I don't notice that in this thumbnail. It very clearly covers her eye. And it's a very clear sign that she's putting out there to the One-Eyed Club that she is a part of it, that she has sold her soul off to them. I think this photo is supposed to show her swatting a mosquito off her forehead. So now we're going into, I think, I believe, I this, I that, you know, that's all hypothetical. Of all people, Jonah Jenton would be the least likely person to be involved with the Illuminati. Just be careful to not instantly dismiss someone. Take a look at the context before making a judgment. If you actually watch this video, we took a long look at the context that she was providing. We also showed she has more than 5 million followers. Let's just go up here again, 5.17 million. And a person with more than 5 million followers, there's no coincidence. I'm going to read my reply to this person, and then I'm going to just flesh that out. So I reply, absolutely disagree. There are no coincidences on how a person with millions of followers, in her case 5 million followers, chooses her thumbnail, especially after she said in so many of her interviews how much energy, work, and time she puts into editing her monthly videos and picks the right picture for it. For those who have eyes and brains to see, this is an obvious One-Eyed Club sign. For sleeping agents like you, clearly not, and that's why you are still roped in by people like her. So the issue really is people who just don't see. Once like that blindfold is off your eyes, you're going to see. And this person is just not there yet. I can tell with the way she tries to defend her cult clan leader, which is Jonah Jenton, and everything. Nothing is by coincidence. Jonah Jenton came out of pretty much nowhere. When I discovered her in 2017, maybe the beginning of 2018, around that time. She already had a lot of followers then, but I don't even think she had 1 million followers at that point. So yes, she did work very hard to get there. Supposedly she's been doing this since 2011 or 2010 and on. Like, I actually read her entire story because I was so interested in the cameras she uses. You know, I do photography myself. I do videography for people who know. I was interested in the microphones, the camera setups, the tripods, everything. Like, I literally dug through her entire information because I wanted to know, how does she do it? Because I was trying to improve my craft as well back then. And her videos are inspirational in that sense. Of course, that's why she has so many people who are really enamored by her. I'm not saying her videos are crap. Her videos are amazing. But she has been doing this since 2010. She's in the middle of nowhere in Sweden. And all of a sudden she blows up out of nowhere. Okay, sure. Yeah, maybe the YouTube algorithm favored her. But what she said in an interview back then, and it's so important because I still remember it as if it were yesterday, because I read through her entire article several different times. She said very clearly the reason it takes her a month to create these videos is, first of all, because of the footage. She needs to collect it. She needs to go out there, actually shoot the footage, photograph it, videograph it, all of that. But also, it takes her quite a while to select the images for the thumbnails. How ironic. And just to select the right music and the right subtitles sometimes, and whatever else she uses in it. And I will never forget that, because I actually used to be a fan of her work up until this came out 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, like 2.5 years ago, whatever. And when I saw that, I was like, it makes sense. Of course, you're being pushed, because otherwise your work would have never blown up. The amount of talented people I've actually worked with, not just here in New York, but all over the world. And the amount of talented people that are out there that do very similar stuff to her and that are never being pushed. It's insane. There are millions of people out there who deserve to be pushed into that, because they've really been doing it for like 20, 30 years. I've worked with the creme de la creme of the photography industry here in New York City. They work for one of the major photo houses, if you're here, them. It doesn't matter. I don't have to say the names, but they worked with those major houses, and 20, 30 years later, they've never been pushed the same way Jonah Jenton's been pushed. And of course, luck has something to do with that too. But this explains it way better than anything else could explain it. This is exactly why they want to sell their soul to the devil, because they're getting something out of it. And in her case, she's getting major, major, major income out of all of this. And she's getting other things out of it too. So another thing I want to show you right here, a life update where she's with her person. That's an actual picture. That's not, so she selects the pictures for it. This is not something you would see in the video. Like, this is an actual picture. So she selects the pictures for it. And the eyes look very suspicious to me too, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. Now, that's all I have to say in regards to her. And, I know I'm not going to convince the people who are her fans of whether or not she belongs to this one-eyed club. And that's not my point. And that's also not my goal. My goal is to show to people who are in between, who are swaying one side, this side, whatever side, who really don't know, who don't have the eyes to see. My goal is to show them this is what's going on. And I do think a lot of those people are trying to find the truth right now. And those are the people who are going to find this channel and other channels, and who are going to really start massively questioning their reality. I don't have to convince anyone of anything. I'm just putting my truth out there. And for the people who have eyes to see, And the next comment shows that so beautifully. So I was also talking about a person. This is the guy who was living on the Mediterranean island, who all of a sudden comes out with that thumbnail pic that I discussed in that one video, the one-eyed club video. And a person commented being like, 36 hours without eating. So the title of that video was 36 hours without eating. Get a calculator, go 1 + 2 + 3 all the way up to 36, and then hit the equal sign and see what number you get. Pretty obvious. I actually did it after he told me you get a 666, and it's true. You actually get 666. That is a huge sign for belonging to the one-eyed club. Okay. And I'm like, wow, you are so right. I just checked it. And then I also was just musing about, I wonder how these people get contacted by the one-eyed club. Like, do they do it online? How do they do it? Do they meet them somewhere in Switzerland, or, like wherever? Like, I was just really wondering about that. And the person said, and I'm not sure if this is true, but the person actually said, my friend's father had a pop-up on his computer from them inviting him to join. He was into some dark stuff and had plenty of entity attachments, and they took notice. They have every resource available to them, from arcane to advanced tech, beyond our wildest imaginations. And I completely believe that, because every single video that I'm trying to make about these type of people or these type of entities, the rabbit hole just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But I also wanted to know if they offered them like a few million, and he couldn't give me an answer to that. So I do wonder what the price is that these people actually sell out to them. It's interesting. Another thing is, every time I review these New Agers, the last one I reviewed was The Alchemist, but also before, when I reviewed like Gigi Young and those type of people, There's always cockroaches. I always see a cockroach. And this is when I'm just walking outside, all of a sudden, bang, cockroach crosses my path. Or just, you know, a weird cockroach sign or cockroach article pops up. And this is almost immediately after reviewing them, after I just recorded my material. For me, on a spiritual level, because every single insect, every single animal out there has a spiritual meaning, it's clear, you know, my interpretation of it is the cockroach doesn't have much purpose in life. You know, people are disgusted by them. People are literally, they swat them to death, you know, literally. So there's no real spiritual meaning to the messages of these people that I'm reviewing. They're not contributing much to the world. And there's also an actual entity attached to them, or they are connected to an entity that's basically useless or just wants to spy on me. And I see that a lot. You know, there's flies, there's fruit flies. Like the latest thing in my environment is the fruit fly thing, where they've been trying to get to me through those, just as an example. Never had an issue with them ever before. Even had to ask my mom about it. I'm like, hey, is this normal? Weird. So that's just another thing. And these are just all spiritual messages, you know, like you can either dive deeper into them or you just see it as, oh, a random cockroach in my life. No, nothing's random. And that's usually what happens when I review these people, especially the New Agers though. But I'm not sure if I got it after Jonah Jenton. It could have very well been. I'm not sure. So we're going to move on to the Schumann Resonance. And my Telegram chat, I had this comment about the Schumann Resonance, and there was a video being forwarded. This is on TikTok, so I'm not going to put it on here. But basically, the video is talking about how there's a possibility that the Schumann resonance is really controlled by us. Instead of measuring lightning strikes in the ionosphere, it's really measuring the collective reverberations of energy from all of us, taking the collective precognitive abilities of everyone and putting it all together. It suggests that the Schumann resonance can be looked at to predict major events similar to the feeling one gets when something bad is going to happen. And I disagree with that. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the Schumann, I'm just reading from my notes, by the way. The Schumann resonance is a tool the NASA invented. If you spell NASA backwards, it's a, you know, some people see a form of a devil in it, you know, Satan, all of that. If you just kind of switch the letters around. But I guess backwards, it would be Asan, which might have a different meaning. So that's also interesting because everything's inverted in our reality, right? Like literally everything. So it's a tool that NASA invented. I think it's part of the matrix machine tech they have to control the people in general. I had a video out exactly a year ago on the matrix machine technology. And if you haven't seen it yet, definitely see it. It's a good video. I don't think it spikes because of us. So this is the Schumann resonance, but more so because they, meaning whoever controls this matrix machine tech, which is literally, you know, the controllers, the AI entities, everything. We're just like this elite group anyhow that runs everything around us, or is trying to run everything around us, but it's not going to succeed in that. And if it were to be successful already, it wouldn't have to put all of this stuff on us, right? You know, all of these restrictions and keep us hypnotized and all of it. So it spikes because they're literally putting radiation in our atmosphere and it changes our mood. It also causes headaches. So maybe that's why I'm also experiencing headaches, but it has been pretty hot here. So I think it is just a mix of things. The headaches has to do with magnesium deficiency. And they've been really depleting our environment of magnesium, boron, and I forgot the third mineral. I have to look it up. So it's so funny because I mentioned this in the original video and I put a note in my head, look up the third mineral, and now I'm recording this again. And I'm like, what's the third mineral? The reason we're deficient of it is simply because they're depleting it from our food, our water, our environments. The food completely changed from the 1950s and on. We're not eating the same food our ancestors ate. Even if we think we are, we're not. Major supermarket chains came about in the 1950s and on as well, really just being controlled, again, by a small group of people, or just by a small group of, you know, whoever is in charge of that, the FDA, supposedly. And so the same food we're eating 100 years ago didn't even exist for the most part, but they completely changed our food. They're changing our entire soil. They're changing the way the farmers are supposed to do everything as well. So everything's changed and they're depleting our entire environment of magnesium, boron, and other minerals too. Another thing frequently noted are fatigue and headaches from sensitive people, meaning people can really pick up on this, you know, who are just kind of wired in that way. Like I would be able to pick up on it quite easily because once your antenna is kind of wired to all of this, it's just wired, right? But I'm sure other people watching this channel pick up on it too. So another thing frequently noted are fatigue and headaches when it spiked a lot. This has to do with magnesium deficiency, meaning they probably radiated us, and that's how our bodies react to it. I actually would like to know what it looked like before 9/11, meaning 2001, and other events. I guess you could trace the data back and see what exactly occurred around the spike times. But another thing I'm very suspicious of is that before 2017 or even before 2014, it was not hyped at all. And I therefore see it as a perfect new age tool. That's my reply to it. I'm sure you could find articles on it before already, but it's been majorly hyped from 2014 on, from 2017 on. And now, you know, now everyone's talking about it. Even a non-new ager is possibly talking about it. Similar to the Lionsgate portal, that's really hyped, which we'll have videos on that later too, later this month. And so that's basically all I wanted to share on it. Now I want to get into the borders. They're having this Nomad border pass. I want to read something. At the dawn of the last century, our world was a very different place. Income taxes didn't really exist. You didn't need your government's approval to buy land, grow food, get married, collect rainwater, sell a product, or operate a mode of personal transport, meaning a driver's license. No permission was required to build your own home, renovate it as you pleased, or install a wood-burning stove. You didn't need to ask your government to start a business, and you sure were not required to pay them for paperwork to prove your new company was legitimate. And if your country was going to hell in a handbasket, either due to economic turmoil, lack of opportunity, or war, you could relocate elsewhere in the pursuit of a better life. No passport or visa was necessary because they didn't really exist. But that's very different to the world we live in today. Today, you need to ask big and brother to do everything described above and more. Very, very true. So it's interesting to me that passports didn't really even exist because I'm just someone, you know, I guess I'm trying to collect passports at this point. But nowadays the hype is to get passports from as many different countries as you can. So people are talking about St. Kitts, one of the Caribbean countries, and a few others over there. People are talking about Malaysia, all of those places where it's easy to get a passport, not just through investment, but other things. And this came around, the Nomad Border Pass. It's a new global mobility tool designed to facilitate digital nomad travel. It allows Nomad users to apply for a single visa, receive access to participating country, several different ones, for up to 90 days of remote work per visit. I still don't really know how this, I mean, if they're all in Europe, you don't need this anyhow, but they're like in these different countries, like parts of Asia, parts of this, parts of that. I guess it could be something of interest. Now, a thing you have to know about the company bringing this out, Plumia, belongs to Safety Wings, and Safety Wing is a tech company. That's all you need to know. So they're really trying to push people just becoming more nomadic, not having a home, similar to the concept of you're going to own nothing and be happy, right? Like, oh, yeah, just travel indefinitely from this country to another. And see, some people love it. You know, I love traveling myself, as you guys know, but some people really are in this backpacker mentality of just go, go, go. But it can be quite uprooting and destabilizing for a lot of people. And I feel this pass is more to make people have no home at all than having them have home in several different countries, which is the point of other people trying to move to a different country and buy a home there, right? So this is kind of like the opposite of it. I want to read a comment from Lee because he left, they left this comment. I don't even know if it's a he or she, actually, it's like a unisex name. But Lee left this comment recently on the Dark Portals Middle East Spirits video that I had. And Lee's saying, I go on TikTok, I see many posts saying life is better outside of the US. Many maybe going to Turkey, Costa Rica, better food, weight loss, less stress. You're giving a heavier perspective with the energy. So I don't know if they wanted to say heavier or healthier, but my reply was, it's not roses and sunshines and butterflies wherever you go. Each place comes with its own and unique challenges, culture shocks, and things to get used to. I myself just returned from another stint in Central America. So I went to Nicaragua and El Salvador, and I put something up like that on my Instagram too. But I can confirm that the karma of the land and people feels very different in each and every country. Like even there, you know, just going to Nicaragua and Costa Rica and El Salvador, it's just so completely different because Nicaragua is under a dictatorship basically. And Costa Rica has that pura vida, you know, as you can't even compare the energy. So it's more about what you want to put up with and how much you're willing to adjust to find your happiness or create the life you want. Now, you're personally always going to run into bureaucracies. You know, I have lived in 3 different countries in my young life so far, and I'm sure I'm going to live in more countries than that too, because I really do like to experience more of the world. However, what I do have to say, you're going to run into your hurdles. You're going to have the visa issue. You're going to have, you know, how are you going to actually be able to substantially live here? You're going to have the issue that a lot of expats are running into in Mexico and Costa Rica, but more so Costa Rica. You had a lot of these retirees that came there 10, 15 years ago, living off of Social Security, living off their 401k, whatever they had. And now the prices have gone up so substantially in Costa Rica because you're experiencing it everywhere, not just here in the US, but not just in a westernized country, but you're experiencing this form of inflation everywhere, where they're even reconsidering leaving Costa Rica again to go to a different part, maybe back to the US, because it's almost not sustainable. And you just have to think about this. Like Costa Rica is a Central American country. It's supposed to be among more of a cheaper one. It is the most expensive one, I believe. Maybe Brazil's more expensive. I'm not sure. It depends on how you compare it. But it is the most expensive one of Latin American countries, but it's still a Latin American country in that sense. So it's just insane. You're going to run into language barriers. You're not just there, everywhere. You're going to run into bureaucracies. You're going to run into, oh, I can only stay for 90 days, then I have to go somewhere else, come back, unless you really do have the right visa and everything. So you're going to run into that in every single country you want to move to. It's really just up to you individually as a person, how much you want to, how much stress, how much of the bureaucracy, how much you really want to take upon yourself, and if you think it's worth it. And for me personally, I ran into this particular issue in Australia. I really had that entire visa. I didn't have the language barrier because they're English speakers, but I really was at a point where I had to reconsider, okay, there's this visa thing. I'm running out of the visa thing in 6 months from now. What's going to happen? And for me personally, intuitively, I knew I had gotten from Australia what I needed to get. So I'm just going to return to where I came from. But you're going to run into that in whatever country you're at. So for me, I did not want to fight for it in that particular country, but I have in other countries. You know, I would maybe for other countries, because if you're really interested in a place, if you're really drawn to it, there are reasons for that too. But if not, you know, like it just sounds so fancy when they post on these TikToks and Instagrams. It's like, oh, emigrate wherever you want to, like just get your visa with investment or just get your visa through these issues. And then everything blows up in that country. You know, a lot of people went to Portugal, Spain, prices were decent. 4 years later, no one can afford anything there anymore. You're not going to get a loan for a house if you come from a different country. If you're not actual Spanish or Portuguese, you're going to have to pay cash for certain things. And that can be a lot to consider, right? And if you don't even necessarily like that country 100%, it's another thing that you really need to think about. So it's not always roses and butterflies and sunshines as people want you to make believe online. Just another rant. Now, I want to talk about the African continent, how it's changed and how borders in general have changed. This was up until what, 1500s? Because they had like the kingdom, empire of Kanem. You see, there's no borders here. There's almost nothing here. And then you have it right now, which was 1914. That's what it says. Let's put this down. Way more borders, and now it looks even way different than that. Now you have Egypt right here. It's not Anglo-Egyptian Sudan, it's just Sudan in general. And for me, when I was in Egypt, I always felt the Egyptian pyramids, the ones in Sudan are more authentic than the ones you actually have in Egypt. So there's something happening in Sudan right now, which is why it's hard to visit, almost impossible to visit actually, because of the war and everything, where they have so many treasures hidden there, right? So this is a border thing. And where was the article on borders? Okay, so up until 1499, the year 1499, like up until the 1500s, you had only 1% of the world borders that are formed now. And up until, yeah, 1899, it was like 23%. And then it just kept going more and more, like 32%, you know, like more and more. So by the time the First World War broke out, you had around 52% of the world's borders that were set during the 20th century. And the world's oldest border is supposedly around Andorra's mountainous region with France and Spain. And that was from 1278. So before that, you literally had no borders in the world. So what really happened in between those years, within those 1,000 years, right? That's something you need to ask yourself too. For me personally, I was in Portugal in 2017. And I remember, because I just came across this picture again, you know, Portugal is actually not my most favorite country to visit, but I was going through pictures of my trip there. For some reason, I just felt drawn to it again. And I remember I took this picture of a church, and below it, I had captioned, "This was before the earthquake in the 1700s in Portugal." And I didn't even know what that meant back then, but now I know. Earthquake, boom, everything was reset, even in Europe in the 1700s. So not just the mud floods that you had here in the US and other parts, like in ancient Tartaria, but also all over Europe. They had earthquakes, they possibly had floods, they had mud floods, everything was reset around that time. So yeah, very interesting stuff, in my opinion. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. You know, I'm sure there's other things that were mentioned in the other video, but we're pretty close to it. We're like 30 minutes in. I hope this helps someone. Thank you so much for your support, everything you do. If you have any thoughts you want to add them below. And until the next video, which I think we're going to talk about something entirely different in that one. If you're new to this channel, subscribe, and I appreciate each and every one of you and literally the insight that you provide, like that one insight on the 36 hours gold, the gold mine, because I personally wouldn't have never come up with that. You know, who comes up with calculators and 1 + 2 + 3, whatever. It makes perfect sense. That's how they operate, right? All right, guys, have a good one. Until then.